So this is basically the part two, and the first part, if you even saw that in YouTube, everything gets scattered everywhere all over the place. But I just talked about that at 2.5 years of sobriety and change, I just woke up and realized I can't live in the country I'm in anymore, and I just can't tolerate all the frickin' racism. It's just too much, and I knew that when I moved here and all that stuff. And I covered that, and there's racism in every country and whatever, but just when it's a constant everyday issue, your skin color. And actually, what I didn't mention in one was also, I've met other people from other countries that are here that are racist against me because of the country I'm from, that are foreigners, that are having issues with racism too. But like I said in the first part, I had more problems with it because I was an alpha male, but I just can't tolerate the racism anymore. And I studied the demographics before I came here, so I had a general idea, but I thought I could deal with it in sobriety, but I just gotta hang it up, so I gotta move. And that's the biggie. So, I mean, looking at my marriage with my wife, in all honesty, she helped me through chemotherapy for a year. She stood by my side. I mean, I had to kind of coerce her into it. I told her I'm going to another country to deal with it. It was like I had to. I mean, the cancer was so bad. There was more cancer cells in my body than blood cells. I mean, my endurance, I could barely walk up a flight of stairs because the cancer cells were getting all my oxygen, all my nutrients, all my vitamins. I mean, I had to freaking deal with that. And she totally babysitted me through all of that. I could have probably maybe done it on my own, but it was a lot easier having a good wife that got me through the chemo. But I just woke up, like hit bottom, that just it's not fair to her or me for us to stay married. And it's my choice. I mean, she would stay with me until I'm basically dead, as far as I know. Yeah, I don't know why she hasn't ditched me, because I'm no prize catch, trust me. I mean, you can tell that by looking at me. I don't even need to go into detail. But she would see me to the grave and take care of me, but our differences in some ways, like there's such a cultural difference, because she's lived in one country for so long, and I've lived in another few countries for so long, and her being in one, there's just such a cultural difference that the communication on some levels, regardless of the language barrier, it's like almost a cultural type of personality, life experience type of thing. I can't really ever deeply bond with her. And it's lonely, It's lonely, but other than that, she's a great gal. She's not abusive, or, she's, well, a little abusive, but in ways that women commonly are, but she's a good person, but the deep tie-in's not there, and so I have to let her go along with the country, basically. So I'm grieving the divorce thing, because naturally I married her because I loved her, and I stayed with her because I loved her, and well, that's good at this point. She's taken it really hard, but we're not pointing fingers. It doesn't look like it's going to result in anything nasty, but it depends on how she takes the grieving, because if she doesn't take it cool, she's going to back me up against the wall, and I'm going to have to split real quick. I'll get no gradual at this point right now. It looks like I got 2 or 3 months to get out of here and get somewhere else. So the divorce, leaving the country, now going to the other country, my birth country. Well, I was adopted at 3 days old. So I'm basically back where I was adopted at 3 days old again. My parents adopted me into abusive, alcoholic, drug addict family. My father was an alcoholic, drug addict. He was mostly drug addict, psychiatrist that was abusing me in ways I don't want to go into, but you know by that, you know what I'm talking about. And other kids as well, too. And my adoptive mom was a sherry drinker. So I grew up in a really nasty, abusive, addicted to, and he also doped me up on drugs. So I was doped up on drugs before I even knew where I was at. And I used to be smart. I could read the paper at 3 years old, I can remember, and I remember some news stuff from back when I was 1. So I was a pretty sharp kid, but when you're all doped up and all that, and you're hit with so much trauma and abuse so young, you don't get a chance to deal with it. So anyways, at 40-something, I meet my real parents. And we kind of bond and family and brother and sister and all that. And yeah, both of them are sober in the program. My real parents, biological. And my one sister is sober and in the program. And then 2 sisters are drinking themselves to death. And my brother is drinking himself to death. And mentally, he's already showing some pretty... unless he gets into serious treatment, he's not going to make it much longer. And the drinking, partying part of the family will let me stay at their place, or I'll have a domicile or a place to go from another country and divorce to another place to adjust. But logic tells me, I don't want to be in a frickin' surrounded by people that are my family, that are using the part of my family that are using drugs and alcohol while I'm grieving a marriage and culturally adjusting to going back to where I came from. I mean, my common sense tells me that's just not the good. And also meetings I've been to here, the people I've talked about this, they kind of concur or agree with that. And my sober mom said I can do 2 weeks at her place, and then I would have to ease out of there into another place. But she's in a state where basically I could do nothing related to my career. I mean, I would be in Timbuktu in the climate and all that. And then the other part of my family, that's from the politically correct, actually that's Alabama, to just mention the name, Alabama in the mid part of it. And, and so anyways, and she would give me like 2 weeks grace period, and then my other part of the family is Oak Harbor, and then my son wants nothing to do with me, really. He's got a 197 IQ, or had, I don't know. I think he's probably practicing now, and he wants nothing to do with me, I think. Or he just doesn't want me around that close, because then, I don't know. And maybe it's his 197 IQ. Maybe he just realizes that he shouldn't be around me. I don't know. But, then the other part, my real blood father hasn't lended a hand out either. So basically, I'm basically going to be homeless. Pretty much. And I got to start everything over again from scratch. And I have residual brain damage from the chemo and a physical injury that I sustained a little bit before here. So it's really, really not easy. And then you have the PTSD I already have from my childhood and the life I lived as a result of my childhood, and the trauma going through all this, the divorce, and the waking up all at once with the cultural thing. think if I could get in touch with my feelings right now, I'd probably start crying really hard. But my psychological block, from the PTSD, the disassociation, I just disassociate instead of cry. So I'm like in outer space right now mentally because I'm disassociated instead of just bawling my eyes out. But there's a lot of pain in there, and there's a lot of stuff and trauma I got to deal with. But it is what it is, you know. I'm sure other people at 2.5+ years of sobriety have had a lot of things, harder things to deal with, you know. But it's not easy. And I really don't have a game plan. Because I lived here for so long, 9 years, that I kind of, when you're in a relationship, when you're in a marriage, it's normal to get isolated and just kind of be involved with your family and kind of isolate your friends. And then me being in a different country, I don't have any real friends in there anymore that I can just like call up and rely on and all of that. And some of that's my fault, just not maintaining ties. And then the few people that I have tried to contact, they're kind of like surprised that I'm contacting them from not contacting them from 9 years. So in a way, I kind of put myself. Well, I guess being responsible, you always put yourself in the situation where you're at, but it's it's going to be rough. So I'll be going through culture shock at 2.5 years and some change, and homeless, insanity, stress, trauma going on mentally. And I don't know about tomorrow, but today I'm not going to drink or take drugs to deal with it. And hopefully tomorrow, or when I get back to the other country, that will continue. And I can say really that is probably the main thing I got going for myself right now, is I'm clean and sober. That's going to turn into a part 3.